Things that if my kids today did them, I'd probably. I mean, very rural area, and so I grew up. I mean, like we explored and we were in the woods and we were digging shelters and building stuff and just. Uh,
Welcome back to all of my Courage, Confidence, and Connections podcast fans. This is Janice Debo coming to you from Central Oregon, and my guest, yes, you'll hear another accent. I'm from North Carolina originally, and you'll hear his. He's in Alabama. This is Southern Talk Day. This is Kermit Jones, and we are going to just lay on the Southern slang.
Sounds good to me.
All right. All right. There are going to be some hillbillies up in here. Oh.
Well, I'm originally from Virginia. We got hillbillies and rednecks up there, but I'm from Southern Virginia, so it's all in good company. That's okay.
Yep, I am all very familiar with Southern Virginia. I had a lot of relatives up in that area in North Carolina and up into Virginia. So I'm very familiar. Well, welcome to the show, Kermit.
Thank you, Janice. It is total honor to be here.
Thank you. Well, we're gonna have fun and get to know you a little bit more. You just brought up you're from Southern Virginia. So is that where you were born and raised?
It is. My parents are actually still there even today. And although when people ask where I'm, well, when people ask my kids where they're from, because I was in the Navy for a couple of decades, we moved every 2 or 3 years. This is actually this month marked the longest I've ever been in one location in 25 years of marriage at three and a
Wow.
half years.
Now, how long has that been?
3.5 years. Like it's usually every 2 years, 2.5 years we were moving, and so this has been a little weird. Starting to get itchy feet, but we'll see what happens.
Did you move a lot as a kid?
I did not. I actually grew up in the same town. When I go back now and visit my hometown in Charlotte Courthouse, Virginia, which is Charlotte County is the second largest land size county in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's the only one that still doesn't have a stoplight in the whole county. But when I go home and take my family with me, people will see my daughter in the store and be like, "You're Jay Jones's daughter." Like, I mean, because they just know.
That's funny. What's the name of the little town?
Charlotte Courthouse, Virginia.
I never heard of that one. Okay.
It's about 30 minutes from Appomattox
Oh,
Courthouse, where Lee surrendered to Grant. So that's the
um,
probably the nearest claim to fame you'll hear.
awesome. My great aunt lived in Petersburg and my mother was raised around that area. And
Yep.
uh and it's so cool because we went to see the crater so many times and that historical place. And we found artifacts in my aunt's yard. She had a cannonball, I think, from the Civil War and other things. So the it's pretty historical area with Appomattox and Petersburg. It's a pretty big deal in that area. Oh, that's
Yes, it is. Yeah.
great.
No,
Wow.
that's awesome. Yeah, I've got a lot of relatives up that way too, in the Petersburg and Chesterfield area. So well acquainted with that area as well, right up the road.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I have a friend that lives in Georgia, but her dad still lives in Petersburg. When I told her my history with that, she just flipped out. So yeah, I even sent her pictures of the old house, which is sent it was burned down, but it was actually could have been in the historical archives, which was sad. But either way, so we're southern here. Now, growing up in Southern Virginia in a one horse town, what did you like to do as a kid? What was fun? What was fun there? Clearly, we grew up when there was no all this technology stuff. So, what would you do?
Things that if my kids today did them, I'd probably. uh, I mean, very rural area, and so I grew up. I mean, like we explored and we were in the woods and we were digging shelters and building stuff and just doing a lot of stuff just with imagination and friends. But I mean, my town, if I sneezed wrong and it didn't say excuse me, like I would hear about it when I got home because somebody would tell my mom.
Mhm.
Um, but for the most part, I mean, we were very rural as far as towns go, but our school system was phenomenal. We had had some unique opportunities. So I was a little bit of a uh, maybe in high school area became a computer nerd in a lot of different ways, and Yeah, and so even though it was rural, I had a lot of opportunities. I did a exchange program to Japan as a high school student. I did a tour with the United States Collegiate Wind Band playing xylophone. So I got to tour Europe, 7 different countries, and yeah, it was crazy, but it was good. So I have no complaints.
Wow, so you played xylophone?
I did so sounds a little bit odd, but yeah, xylophone, marimba, bells, you name it. I was in the pit crew, and I had an absolute blast doing it. My mom wanted me to play an instrument that aligned with piano because I took piano lessons, and so that put me there. So kind of makes sense.
That's funny. I never heard of anybody playing the xylophone, but I have an ex-mother-in-law who played the accordion. So it's like,
Really close, just
yeah, my mother was a piano. She taught piano. She played piano in Oregon, like we were talking about earlier, and I got 10 years of piano under my belt before I did the typical high school thing, and I got a high school sweetheart. So,
Gotcha. No, I played. One of my favorite stories was I actually learned to play Flight of the Bumblebee on the xylophone as my senior. I was preparing for my senior piece recital, and when I did the collegiate wind band, I missed the rehearsal with the band. So my first time playing with them was literally at the first live performance that we had.
wow.
Um, and it was me, the oboe, and the flute or piccolo playing the key part. And so everybody's like looking at me like, can this guy like hack it? And man, I knew. I opened the sheet music. It was like, oh, I know this, and just belted it out. And everybody was like, holy cow! And they were like, how did you do that? I was like, I don't know. It's the first time I've ever sight read it. I mean, I've been studying it for a year and a half,
Wow.
but they
That's
didn't know that.
oh, that's good. So I'm curious what your kids think when you take them back to that area, going back in time, what a lot of people would think.
Yeah, it's going back in time, and it is like things have completely not changed at all. Like I can still name the 7 stop signs in the town that I grew up in, and so
Oh my goodness.
yeah, so it's kind of a little bit of a when we go back, it's a little bit throwback. We enjoyed fishing and going
Mm.
through the woods and everything, but they can handle it. I'll say in short bursts, simply because it's a little underwhelming at times. So, but they actually enjoy the history part. So
Oh,
look at some of the Civil War stuff that takes place and the museums and battlefields and that sort of stuff. That's actually something that interests them a little bit more than most of the other stuff.
oh,
So that's
good.
been a common ground area.
Well, that is great because that's not always the case with kids these days. Not always. So how old are they? Are they teenagers?
Let's see, 22, 20, 18, and 16,
Oh
all
my,
girls.
oh my goodness. Wow. Well, you are outnumbered.
Yep, we did a road trip this past weekend. We went to Florida to swim with the manatees in Crystal River, which is about a 7-hour road trip one way. And I actually took 2 of the boyfriends with me too, and I was kind enough to even bring them back. Although I did consider leaving 1 or 2 at a time, but so 7 hours down on Friday, and then 9 hours back on Sunday because we went through Orlando to SeaWorld
Oh,
and rode some roller coasters. So good
oh,
times.
sounds like fun. Sounds like a lot of fun. Well, that is great. And you joined the Navy. Did you join right out of high school or did you go to college or what? What's that story?
Playing xylophone. Originally, I wanted to join the President's own Marine Corps band because they
Mm.
had these really cool red uniforms instead of the dress blues. And my Sunday school teacher said, "Well, if you want to join the Marine Corps, you should go to the Naval Academy." And so I said, "Okay, I'll go there." And he was like, "You don't just go there," but that's where I went. So I went there, and so 4 years at the Naval Academy right out of high school. And then when I graduated, I was actually a line officer or a normal naval warfare, surface warfare officer. Did that for about 3.5 years and resigned my commission and came back in as a chaplain. And that was in 2001. And
Mm.
so I have went to seminary and came on active duty. 2013 became a reservist, and I'm still actually in the reserves as a Navy chaplain reservist. And so I work out of a few different locations, but um, it's just I love the opportunity to serve people in uniform, and as a chaplain, I get to do that. People are always like, "Thank you for your service," and I'm like, well, actually, I get to serve those who serve, and that's a pretty awesome opportunity, and yeah, wouldn't trade it for the world. So I'm going to keep playing. I probably got another 4 or 5 years that they'll let me do it before they kick me to the curb completely. But um, but that's kind of that's one of the things that I continue to do to serve my country and serve the people in it, and absolutely love it and love the opportunity.
That is great. Well, I think we're going to kind of do a little segue over to current days and times. And with that history, what inspired you to do what you're doing now? Because you got your fingers in more pies than I do, and that's a lot. So,
Well, about 5 or 6 years ago, I was introduced to the topic of coaching as an actual thing. And I remember, I don't know if you're familiar with Immunity to Change. It's a coaching tool that's out there. The book is by Robert Keegan and Lisa Leahy. You can see
oh,
some. They've got some YouTube videos, but it's why are people resistant to change? How do we overcome it? I remember talking to the instructor, and I took him to lunch, and I said, "Hey, I want to take you to lunch and ask you a bunch of inappropriate questions." So we go to lunch, and I said, "How do you make a living doing this?" And then they kind of broke it down for me. And for the first time, I was like, "Oh, like I can actually like help people, like serve them in this coaching capacity, and actually maybe make a living doing it when I came off active duty." And so, long story short, I was on a mobilization at the time, temporarily to active duty, so I had a couple years runway. I went to a coaching program. I got my ICF, or International Coaching Federation, level one ACC and level two. I did the training and the class, got my 500 hours, and applied directly to PCC. So I'm an ICF PCC, and love doing that. I've enjoyed doing leadership coaching. I still do leadership coaching, and I still get brought in from some organizations. However, a couple of years ago, I also got certified as a business coach. And it
oh,
was something I didn't really do anything with. I just kind of had it as a because I'm a certificate junkie. I don't know if you know the type, but if there's a certificate to be had, like in a training, I'm on it. And so I had this certificate. Well, at the beginning of this year, when Doge happened and a lot of cuts happened, a lot of my potential clients who are connected to government contracts, that business went away. And so I really had to kind of ask myself, okay, so what can I do that has potential to support my family, because we are a single income family, support my family, and at the same time like do something that I love, that I
mhm.
feel God's really calling me to. And business coaching was the I don't know if low hanging fruit's the right word, but it was kind of staring me in the face. I was helping a friend out of mine that's a business. I was like a business owner, and I said, "Hey, well, I said, what are you struggling with?" He says, "Well, the following." I said, "Well, have you considered this and this?" And he goes, "No, like you have you considered doing this like for a living?" It occurred to me, but that's when it really really kind of really occurred to me, maybe is the way to put it.
Mhm.
And so I kind of sat down and recalculated and determined that, you know what, this is something that I really love doing. I love helping business owners, and uh, it has potential for growth and to make a big impact. And so that's how I ended up where I'm at, and that's been, I don't know, several years, but really the past year or so has been where I've really kind of focused in, and I've started putting some of those irons and other fires off to the side, and focus a little bit more on helping business owners in particular.
Oh, that's fantastic. And in these days and times, they do need a lot of help. It's it's been a challenge for a lot of us, and having someone to help steer the ship and guide us. I like to say we can't see the forest for the trees because we're in the middle of the woods ourselves. So
Amen to that.
it makes it tough. And so going back again, it sounds like did you have a dream as a child of what you wanted to do? I know what you did, but did you ever think about being a teacher, a chaplain, or a coach? I mean, coaches, I didn't know what a coach was until 8 years
Yeah,
ago.
not a lot of kids say I want to be a coach when I grow up.
Yeah.
No, I didn't really. Funnily enough, kind of like when I went to the Naval Academy, I originally planned on being a Marine, and I woke up my junior year and said, you know what, I hate physical exercise. So out of respect to the Marine Corps, I segued over to the Navy, and I also went with the original intent of being a computer science major. Like that's what I wanted to do because I loved computers. And I got there, and I wouldn't call myself lazy, but when I looked at the work that the engineers did, and then I looked at the other people, I said, you know what? You only have to write a couple of papers, and so I became a political science major. But it's so I had to take double E and all the stuff. I have a bachelor's of science from there, but poli sci was kind of where I ended up focusing on, which was a little bit of a segue. And I really like, even at my time in college, I knew at some point I was going to become a chaplain. It wasn't a matter of if; it was more a matter of when. And I was planning on waiting about probably 5 to 10 years after graduation, and I don't know, God had a different plan at about the 3 year point. Someone kind of brought it to my face. And so that's when I shifted gears into that. And if you had told me back then, like even then, I mean, Janice, if I'm being honest with you, I leadership coaching, I mean, I didn't think that was a real thing. like, and which is funny because chaplains, we care for all, provide for our own, facilitate for others, and we advise commanding officers. So there's almost a coaching component that can kind of take place in that.
Mhm.
And in 2014 or 15, that's when I really took my first like coaching course. It was like a couple of days, and it kind of opened my eyes to this possibility. And I was a huge John Maxwell fan, and leadership, like all that stuff was there. Still never really occurred to me until it hit me square in the face about half a decade ago.
Mhm.
And once it caught hold, and you know this, once you catch the bug, there's no turning back. It's full steam ahead, to use a Navy term.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Did you go out on a ship? Were you involved in it? I know it's got to be like you're just stuck on the middle of the ocean. So, did you have that experience?
I did. I had that experience several times, and I have to say that there's some times when I miss it.
Oh.
As a line officer, I deployed to the Persian Gulf. So I spent a lot of time in the Gulf and doing what we call Westpac. So the Pacific Rim and Australia and Mali, the Maldives. Like I got to experience all that, which was amazing. And then I was stationed out of Japan for two separate times for 2 years each. Um, and then as a chaplain, I was a cruiser chaplain, which that was an amazing time. Crew of 360 people, and they were my sailors. And so that's a lot different than there. We've brought chaplains back to the small ships now again, which is great. But there was a time when that wasn't really a big thing. And but yeah, being in the middle of the ocean with like literally nothing around for as far as you can see, uh, and looking up at the sky with like absolutely no light pollution, it's an amazing, uh, words can't really describe it, I think is probably the better way to put it. But then having the opportunity to meet people from different cultures, and I was in charge as a chaplain. We did community relations events, so we would go to orphanages and old folks homes and parks and do like these community relations events where we would go in and paint park benches or whatever the case may be. I mean, it was just an amazing opportunity to experience different cultures. And I think really one of my favorite parts was facilitating young sailors who that wasn't in I remember one time they kind of bait and switched us. They told us we were going to play with kids. We
No.
got there like, hey, we need help cleaning this stuff, like, right. And so we ended up like emptying all this trash out over this room. But one of my sailors came up to me and they were like, if you had told me what we were really going to do, I never would have showed up. But I'm so glad I did because it was absolutely life changing. And that's the sort of like it's moments like that that made everything else worthwhile.
That's awesome. Wow. Well, do you have any advice for young people who are on that precipice of making decisions? Maybe you've got four daughters. You've got to have encountered this decision making opportunity. What do I want to do with my life? Question.
That's a good one. I go back to the old adage, you can't steer a parked car.
Right.
And so I've never told my kids they had to go to college. That was never in the this cards. You do have to become a productive citizen, right? You got to do something. And I would rather see someone take a gap year and explore a few things and then go to school with a purpose. Like have clarity of purposes, what you want to do, how you want to do it, and then go after it. And that's the same thing that I tell business owners. A lot of business owners they don't really give thought to their purpose and direction as far as what they're trying to accomplish. And so because of that, they're just kind of flailing. They're just kind of treading water sometimes, and then they wonder why they're drowning. And if you've got forward direction and momentum, you can use that to your advantage. So
Mm.
I will tell you one funny story. There's a young man in my world, and it took a little bit of time, but eventually he showed up on my doorstep, and I was just doing projects around the house. I borrowed a backhoe for about a week. I borrowed a skid steer. We were cutting trees down, doing all these projects, and he just showed up and started helping out.
Oh,
And I was like, this is pretty awesome, like, right? And we were building walls and plumbing and electrical. I do a little bit of everything. And my daughter tells me at one point, she says, yeah, he read a book that said you're supposed to find an old guy that knows how to do things and just kind of apprentice with them. And I was just like,
oh.
but I think the book was Rich Dad Poor Dad. Anyway, so but the idea was that he came alongside because he just wanted to learn how to do things, and I do a lot of different things, and so but so go find somebody and just do something, like experience something, like figure something out, get your hands dirty, and then maybe get a little clarity on what you want to do or not want to do, um, and then have focus because if you don't know where you're going, you know, it's hard to get there.
Well, that's exactly right. And a lot of kids don't have that guidance from their parents because their parents maybe grew up and they didn't have that guidance. So all this stuff gets passed down. I I had a former client, and I think she's still the executive director of the Washington branch of Skills USA. And if you haven't heard of it, I highly recommend looking into it because I watched an episode. Let me give little Mike Rowe a plug here, but I watched an episode. Now she was a client a couple years ago, and I did some training with her executive staff, and found I'd never heard of Skills USA, but oh my goodness, what they do for kids. The skills can be in any area and anything from being in film production, being a TV anchor, being a welder. Oh my goodness, it's a great program. It's worth, if somebody's got teenagers, it's a great system to help them because college is not doing what it used to. It's not helping people like it used to. It's
Yeah, agreed.
how many college kids are baristas, right?
No comment. And it's hilarious, but I teach we call it the money game, and it's a pay off your debt and save money for retirement, like just basic principles like that. But
Yeah.
one of the things we talk about on there is the necessity of college. Is college necessary? My first response is no. And I actually have a plug for Micro Works is his website, and and this idea of there are millions of unfilled skilled labor jobs out there, and but we've discredited, and some people call them blue collar jobs. I'd call them skill labor jobs. Like, right, we've discredited it, but the reality is, like, if you talk, like, I have a client, a plumber who I think cleared $370,000 last year.
Wow.
Now that's revenue, like, right. So I mean, he probably only cleared. Sorry, he probably cleared maybe 150 to 180,
Hmm.
but that's that's pretty good, by most standards. And the reality is, he has such a hard time. One of the hardest parts that I'm working with him on is finding good help,
Mm.
like finding someone that can come in that will actually work, show up on time, and apprentice. I mean, you get some kids these days. Well, I don't want to say kids these days because that's not there's older people too these days, but you can't graduate college, show up to a workplace and expect $30 an hour with no experience, and then show up late the first 5 days.
I
And
know, I know.
I have another client that's the struggle they're going through, and I'm just like, I don't even know what to say at that point. So
Yeah, it's a different world, and I learned a lot from about this organization and how the kids get to compete in some of these things to earn scholarships. It's fascinating. I went to college for a little over a year, And I was one of those, high level students. I did well. I had scholarships, grants, and all that stuff. And I was going to be a speech therapist. Now I can barely. Now, okay, so that kind of relates to what I'm doing now, right? Um, but I found out I needed a doctorate to really make any money and go anywhere with it.
Mm.
I said, another 8 years of this? I don't think so. And so I transferred to be near my high school sweetheart, wound up supporting him, which is that's a long story. And this is not, I'm not interviewing myself, but um, I transferred because I'd always been loved to sew. I was a very good seamstress, so I transferred to um, some kind of a textile major in at NC State. Everybody's heard of NC State. So, but that didn't last long either. And as good a student as I was, college failed me. I didn't have any real mentorship or guidance. And honestly, a skill, how many baristas are going to clear 150,000 in a year? I mean, now plumbing is a nasty business. I won't lie about that. I've had plumbers come to my place. The stuff they've had to deal with, okay, it's nasty. But, you can probably get over it if you're making 20 grand a month.
Oh, hey, there's another guy nearby. I think he calls it the honey wagon, and it's a sewer clean out and septic tanks. And I'll never forget there was an episode on Micro Works, so Dirty Jobs, when he did Dirty Jobs. There was a guy on there that owned a septic tank, and he said, "Look," he says, "people are always going to need to use the bathroom. Like if you want a recession proof business, and so yeah, so I don't knock it. I used to love the show Dirty Jobs for that very reason, because it showed that there's an entire world of things that we depend on that we don't realize we depend on.
Yeah, we take it
That
for granted. Oh my gosh. Well, one
yes.
one incident I had was I live in a place where I've got neighbors and we share, you know, lines on pipelines and such. And I remember it was on a Saturday night and things got clogged up. And thankfully I rent, so I could call.
Just make a phone call.
Yeah. But I tell you what, I learned I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had to call a plumber, it would have been out of pocket substantially. And just I just appreciate what they do so much because of the and you think about the dangers of things like electricians and what they have to learn, and but tradespeople, yeah, they can make really good money, but there is a very big short supply. And and since back to the small business or the business owners, have you got any other stories that you'd like to share that would benefit whoever might watch this, as far as maybe a young person and or a person who needs to hire, or just whatever story? I'd like a success story if you've got one.
Yeah, a couple of those. I mean, so I think the interesting thing about business, if I was going to just make one comment before that, is if you ask, if I put a room of 10 people or 100 people in, and I say, hey, what's the language of business? Like, what's the secret to business?
Mhm.
Most business owners would say marketing,
Mm,
marketing, advertising, like lead generation. And the reality is that's not true. The secret, the language to business is accounting. Now,
mm,
don't get me wrong, I am not like an accountant. I'm not. Uh,
me either.
but but at the end of the day, it's the numbers like that matter. It's the metrics that matter.
Mm,
And so understanding like what you're measuring and why you're measuring. And if you've ever read the book the E-Myth or E-Myth Revisited,
mm,
the conversation is that a lot of business owners go into business because they love the topic of what the business is about. Like they want to bring something amazing to the world to serve other people. Almost every person in business, like they're there because they're solving other people's problems. That's the end goal.
that's
The problem is that they get there and then there's all these other things. LLC, should I be an S corp? Should I do this? Like how do I figure out my Facebook and what do I do with whatever? And they're hodgepodge grabbing at straws as
mhm.
far as what they're doing. So that's one of the things that I enjoy doing is bringing clarity to that. Where I sit down, I have a software that I use that literally takes them through 12 to 20 different areas, and then we prioritize and rank based on their data and their information,
Okay.
This is step one. This is step two. This is step three. And it's a very clear roadmap. And that's one of the things that I enjoy working with them. And I have one. I mean, I've got a lot. I've got several success stories of business owners that I've worked with. But in almost every instance, it's really just a matter of like my sales pitch. And I always tell people, so I have a webinar that I offer every first Wednesday of the month. It's free. There's no sales involved. It's available to anyone who wants to join, and it just takes business owners through some of the basic information that that is helpful for them to do. I do a live version of it. I work with several chambers in the area. Well,
Oh,
business owners will come in and they work through that. And then my sales pitch at the webinar, and I always say sales pitch in quotes. My sales pitch at the webinar though is that, hey, sit down with me for 45 minutes and I'll solve one of your biggest problems. No strings attached, no gotchas, no credit card needed. Like I'll help you the best I can. And at the end of the session, literally my next sales pitch is hey, here's like 40 steps that you could take in your business to succeed. And
nice.
I'll rack and stack them like 12 to 40 steps, like, right. And then the question becomes literally, did you want to try and do this on your own,
Mm.
or did you want help with that? That's the extent of my sales pitch. I don't do a hard sales at all. But what I find is that business owners, a lot of times they just want to know, like, what's the next step that I should take? Like, what's the thing that's going to move the needle in the direction that I want? And unfortunately, a lot of them are chasing after revenue. And you'll hear me say this a thousand times if once. Revenue feeds your ego, but profit feeds your family. And you've seen some books out there probably like feed yourself profit first, or pay yourself first. Like, right. I'll talk to a business owner, and I always ask this question. You can have $1 million business with a 10% net profit and make 100,000 a year. That's pretty good. Like net profit. I can take a $250,000 company of revenue, and I can show them in 12 months how they can make the same amount of net profit as $1 million company.
Oh,
Which
nice.
one's less headache,
Oh, clearly the 250,000.
right? And so my goal is to help, but the problem is we're so used to chasing after the revenue like carrot that we totally miss the impact of how the little things add up. And so that's one of the things that I love. So I'm sitting down with this one business owner here recently, um, and my question was, what's the thing that you do that none of your competitors do? Like, what do we call it, a market dominating position? What's your MDP? What do you do that no one else does as well as you do? And and the reality is most business owners can articulate that. So they'll say, oh well, uh, I I'm trying to think of a list of like bad things that they say, and they'll say, well, we're licensed and insured. Well, I would hope so. Like, right, or we're
Yeah.
family owned. No one cares. Like, right, we do XYZ, and they go down this list. We're the best. Our quality's the best. And I'm like, yeah, you and every competitor on the planet is going to say that. None of that does anything. And so
Right.
we sat down with this one guy and literally just said, okay, so this is what I do unique. And I don't want to say the industry that this gentleman was in case he's listening to the podcast. I don't want to embarrass him. But the industry he's in, we came up with an MDP for him that very clearly articulated, like, hey, look, everyone else offers a 1 year warranty. We offer a 25-year warranty out the gate. Like, that's what distinguishes him from everyone else. And literally overnight, he tripled the amount of business that he had coming through. I
Wow.
mean, like that's literally all it takes is just having clarity. And so a lot of business owners will go chase after Facebook ads, and but they're just throwing money after something. Like, they haven't told you what's unique about them. Like, what is it that they do? And so there's no reason for someone to want to click. And I've got a gazillion examples in the webinar that we show. Everything's from cosmetic surgeons to builders to roofers, you name it. And the idea is like gain clarity on the one thing you do. So if anyone's listening to this, what's your unique selling proposition that no one else can do as well as you? That's what you market. Like that's the thing that matters. And if you look at every major brand that exists on the planet, they all have this market dominating position. And clarity in that one thing is the first. That's almost always the first domino.
Mm-hmm.
Clarity in that one thing then gives credence to everything else that they do. every marketing, every Facebook ad that we run, every time we talk to somebody on the phone, every time we ask someone to confirm. You were talking earlier about a plumber.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I, I'll give an easy example of a plumber. So imagine a plumber comes to you and they fix, like, what's something you would have fixed by the plumber?
Oh, unstop the toilet.
Okay, so the plumber comes in and they identify maybe it needs to do wax ring, right? So they take your toilet up, which is nasty business. They clean out the old one, they put a new wax ring in, they put it back together, and they leave. And what happens to most plumbers when they leave? They're completely forgotten. Like, right? And
Yeah,
6 months from now, something else breaks on your house, and you go find a different plumber half the time. So
right.
what I taught my plumber was he gets done fixing the toilet and he says, "Hey, you know what? Somebody from my office is going to contact you within 72 hours just to make sure everything's still okay. You go with that?"
Oh,
Right? So 2 or 3 days later, someone calls and they say, "Hey, this is so and so from XYZ Plumbing. We replaced that wax ring. Bill just wanted me to double check. Is everything still good? Is it flushing okay? Yeah, no problems. Like, right, no leakage. Everything's good. Okay, that's fine. Hey, you know what? We warranty our work for 6 months. Are you okay if we call back in about 30 days just to double check?" What's the owner going to say? Sure. So 30 days later, you get a phone call. "Hey, this is so and so from Bill's Plumbing Service. We replaced that wax ring a month ago. We were just calling to check. Is everything still good?" "Yeah. Okay. Good. Hey, you know what? We're not going to bug you too much, but we're going to call you back at the 3 month point in 2 months. Is that okay?" And everybody's going to say, "Yeah."
mm-hmm,
3 month point, they call you back. Now the reality is a wax ring doesn't go bad. Maybe once every decade, like, right.
mm-hmm,
But they've called you 5 times over 6 months, like, right, not to bug you, not flooding your email box. But the sixth time they call back, or the month six, they call and say, "Hey, you know what? We're at the end of the warranty. We just wanted to double check. Everything's still good?" "Yeah." "Is there any other plumbing issues that you have, like, that may be taking place?" "No." "Okay. Would you mind if we sent you a survey card, like, just for you to fill out? It's going to be a QR code for a Google business profile, whatever the case may be." Well, then the question becomes this: at any point in time in that 6 months, if you're talking to your friend and they say, "Hey, you know what? I got a leaky toilet," what are you going to say?
call Joe.
I know just the plumber for you, like, right. So what's happened is, with like maybe 4 phone calls, we've literally created a true fan or a rabid fan. And at
Mm-hmm,
the 6 month point, we send you a sticker that just said, or a magnet for your fridge that says, "Hey, look, if you want to throw this on your fridge, the next time you have a problem, we'll provide the same level of customer service."
nice.
So so just by gaining clarity on something as simple as that, like, we're gonna warranty our stuff for 6 months. That, I mean, plumbing stuff, once you fix it, 6 months, they could go 5 years and probably not have issues, right? But that ongoing, it's about creating a relationship, because we're relational people. You know,
Yes,
your podcast is courage, confidence, and connections. Connections isn't just about networking. Connections is about seeing a human being on the other side,
exactly.
and having a deep connection with them. And we think that because it's a plumbing business, we can't do that. The reality is you absolutely can do that.
Mm-hmm,
You can take the time to care about people and serve them in a way that actually creates more business for you. And so my plumber, I mean, we're a couple of weeks, uh, I guess we're about 6 weeks into it now. So almost a couple of months into it. But just the feedback that he's gotten on the Google business profile, of 5-star reviews. Like, this plumber came out, called to check to make sure it's good. Like, doing like that alone has been a total shift. And not only that, your number two C, confidence. What
mm-hmm,
kind of confidence does this guy have when he says, like, "Hey, I can come serve you"? Like, right? Look at my Google profile reviews. Like, literally, that becomes what we're doing. And anyway, so that's a couple of examples, a couple of different things on that one. But that's the kind of stuff that I love working with them, because, like, he approaches his work differently now. He approaches it with a type of pride that you can't just get from someone who just shows up and fixes a toilet and leaves. Um,
exactly.
so that's what I would say on that one.
That's fantastic. Well, as we wrap it up, because I'm, getting right around the 30-minute mark.
Sorry
What
about that.
Oh, no, 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 we're good. We're good. All your information will be available for our listeners at the end of the podcast. But where can people find you if you want to give a verbal shout out for that?
I appreciate that. The easiest place, camelcoaching.com, and that's camel with a K. The
Oh,
camel stands for Carrie, Abby, Megan, Emma, Lauren. And but camelcoaching.com, and we actually have about 20 minutes of free training there. They can click around, see some of the videos, a simulator that they can do if they're a business owner, and that will actually send them another dozen videos. So it's a lot of educational stuff that I provide available at no charge, just to help them and serve them if I can.
oh, that's fantastic, Kermit. Well, I tell you what, thank you for being my guest, and it's just been enjoyable and learning a lot about a Southern boy who who is helping businesses all over. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. I really appreciate the opportunity. I hope that you have a wonderful day. And to all the listeners that are out there, like and subscribe, and come back and share the things that Janice is sharing with people, because this is a podcast that can make a positive impact on the world around you.
That's the goal. Thank you, Kermit. And thank you to my audience for being here listening to another Courage, Confidence, and in Connections podcast. We'll see you next time.